Hello, I'm Charlotte Martinez from the Teen Yoga Foundation, and I'm very excited to be speaking to Jo Barker, who is one of our trustees at the charity, and also a student of the Teen Yoga course and a teacher training course as well. So she's a fully fledged yoga teacher as well as a psychiatrist in CAMHS in Southampton. Maybe you'd like to tell me a bit more about your role, Jo, because I'm sure there's things that I don't know, but is that right that you're running CAMHS in Southampton, or how
Oh,
does
there's a few psychiatrists. I work 2 days in Southampton, and I am the only sort of eating disorders psychiatrist, but I do generic CAMHS as well, and then I do 1 day on the Isle of Wight just for eating disorders as well.
That's it. That's it. Okay, wonderful. And I think, many of us know just from the media and from friends that the situation in CAMHS has been pretty dire for a long time. It's been pretty tricky for you guys working in CAMHS, and I don't think we need to sort of reiterate that, but just to sort of set the scene a little bit, that obviously it's really hard for you to reach all the young people that you'd like to reach and to have the impact that you'd like to have over the period of the time you're working. And being a mum of three girls, I'm sure that's very frustrating for you. Do you want to talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit? People get to see.
it's very frustrating. Things have changed a lot in the last, well, since I've been working in CAMHS, but particularly in the last decade. And I think, we used to not have waiting lists, and now the waiting lists are so huge. And people might be seen for initial assessment, but then they're waiting a couple of years for treatment, and
Wow.
it feels really wrong.
Mm.
Because and I hear stories all the time. People say, "Oh, you're not severe enough for CAMHS," and and these kids have got really difficult things going on, and it's really heartbreaking, actually, them just waiting for so long without any support, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think there has been some good things about having like mental health in schools teams. That's been helpful in terms of the lower level mental health problems, getting support into schools, which has come from CAMHS, but it's a sort of lower level.
Mm.
So that has been a good thing. But I think the need for CAMHS, mental health in schools teams will only see very low level, and actually the need is for the higher level, which they're not able to deal with, really.
Of course, I can totally see that. And I'm sure there's so many questions that people would like to ask you about this and sort of share their stories. But I think we've heard a lot of those on the media, But how do you perceive the need now for a sort of mental health provision for young people? Do you perceive that there's a greater need, or is the waiting list simply because we don't have enough staff in CAMHS, or is the waiting list because there's a greater need in general
I
among young
think
people?
it's both. It's both. So there's definitely not enough staff. People.
Yeah,
It's hard to recruit and it's hard to retain people.
right.
So that is a massive issue. And also, the demand. So the referrals have just increased exponentially, which we can't keep up with that.
And do you think that there's a correlation? Obviously, we saw this happening pre-pandemic, but is there a correlation with the pandemic, do you see, or do you see a correlation with anything else that would be of interest for people watching this? I mean, why has there been why are there more young people suffering today than in the past? It's a $1 million question, isn't it? But
It
what's your
is,
opinion?
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
there's lots of theories, and
yeah.
it's not 100% clear at the moment. I think the pandemic was a perfect storm for lots of mental health problems. I think there's been an increase in recognition of mental health problems, as well as like neurodiversity. So there's a huge increase in diagnosis and demand for diagnosis and assessment for neurodiverse conditions. So, and I think then people are more aware of anxiety. I think, actually, there has been a general awareness and increased awareness of mental health problems in young people, which has been good in that people are
Yeah.
talking about it more.
Yeah.
But I suppose that comes with,
Yeah.
then people are wanting support for that, which, is a good thing that they want the support, but the support's just not available, really.
Yeah. So I think with statistics, it's very easy for statistics to be skewed, isn't it? And we need to be able to look at all areas. Like, okay, increased awareness means increased application for support where maybe before that wasn't the case, and that would have played out in different ways in society that might have been less constructive, right? But with this backdrop, then you've done something quite unusual and maybe a little bit revolutionary within CAMHS, in that you've employed a yoga therapist in your team. Would you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that process? How did that come
Yeah.
about? 'Cause I know lots of people would be very
So,
interested to hear about that.
yeah. So I started teaching yoga in CAMHS just as a sort of extra thing that I wanted to do myself after doing the yoga teen yoga teaching program, and it was really great. I loved doing it, and it was really lovely to see what an impact it could have on the young people. And unfortunately, I just wasn't able to keep it going because obviously the demand, I
Yeah, it's
needed
crazy. I can't even imagine
uh,
how you could have done that. Yeah.
yeah, I needed to do other things. So I put it on pause for a little bit, and then it was, as I said before, about it was really hard to recruit people. So we had quite a lot of vacancies for different jobs, and we just couldn't recruit to them at all. And our manager was aware of the work that I'd done in yoga, and she's very creative and innovative in terms of her solutions to things. And she thought, oh well, why don't we try and recruit for a yoga practitioner, because we've got this spare money, and let's just see if we can do it, and we could use it to take outcomes and measure it to see if it's going to be helpful. So we decided to go for it, and so we advertised for a fixed term post of a year for a I think we advertised it was called a yoga practitioner in CAMHS, and we had quite a lot of applicants, and we were really fortunate to employ Bernadette, who's a children's yoga therapist, and but also has a background in children's mental health, as she was a children's social worker. So it was really perfect because she was like dual trained, if you like, and that has been invaluable actually, because I think obviously lots of people want to go into CAMHS, but it is very specialist work, and I think to have a background and knowledge of the kind of issues is really important.
I can see that, yeah. And so you had this trial year, and how are you measuring outcomes? Did you get the involvement of the university? I think you mentioned this at one point, or was it just your own outcomes that you were measuring? I mean, do you just do
Yeah.
in-house, or
So I'd sort of, when I was doing it, I was researching what was the best outcomes to use, what sort of things did we want to measure, and which things are validated within the sort of scientific psychiatric community and things. And so we decided, and there's a psychologist at the University of Southampton who's particularly interested in yoga and mental health. So in conjunction with her, we came up with these different measures. So we're looking at there's one called the scale of body connection. So that's very much about how you feel in your body. And we're looking at mindfulness, and we're also looking at compassion. So
lovely.
as well as the standard measures that we do in CAMHS anyway, which are a kind of strengths and difficulties scale, as well as looking at anxiety and depression. So there's quite a lot of things that we're looking at.
Wow, yes, really interesting from a yoga. People who just practice yoga, I'm sure they'd be interested in hearing the outcomes for that. So what were the outcomes in the general terms? What were you finding?
Yeah, so I mean, they were all positive. Basically, there's not been any negative ones. So our hypothesis that people will feel more connected to their bodies, they'll be more compassionate, they will feel that they can be more mindful in their everyday life. Those things have all been true so far. I don't think we've actually, there has been improvement. So in the strengths and difficulty scales, I think there was improvements in that. And I think at the time of the last, I can't really remember actually, sorry, about the anxiety and depression one. I can't remember that off the top of my head. But at the time, it's taken quite a long time to kind of get Bernadette up and running and get the groups up and running. And actually she's had a lot more individual work. And I think that's really important as well, that it's because a lot of the children aren't ready for a group, so
Yeah.
it's so good that she can be flexible and see people individually.
Yes.
And we're also looking at she's going to start a sort of waiting list initiative, so the children that get referred for ADHD, they can be waiting 2 years for an assessment, and then another 2 years for treatment, actually, which is just terrible. So Bernadette's going to start groups with some of them who've they're sort of self-selected, that wanted to try it, and so that will be an interesting intervention as well. So,
and I think we've sort of skipped probably the most remarkable part of this story, which is that this year Bernadette's post became permanent, which is so exciting. But I mean, for any yoga teacher or yoga practitioner out there, the thought that you could get a permanent job, working in yoga is probably a dream come true for many. And so I mean, when England, I think, from looking a little bit from the international perspective, has been quite a forerunner in trying new things, in education and medicine. And I think, I know it's probably in this case it's needs must, but also, necessity being the mother of invention. And I think this is really an exciting progression. And I wonder whether you feel that there's any scope for this, to move outside of Southampton and go to other. I mean, I know you've spoken a little bit about it at various conferences. How was it received, and what do you think the future of this might be?
Yeah, everyone's very excited about it, and in fact, when we got the advert out, lots of people approached us to say, "Oh, we'd like to do this," and so I think it will be really great to have some data behind it that we can, show to other people, so that they can use that as evidence to present the idea to managers that might be interested in this. So and we're really fortunate that we've got, I think, two students who are doing their clinical doctorate in psychology, who are going to be doing this as their kind of full-time research for a year.
Wow,
So
that's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. That is really exciting. So that's the sort of backup research that we need for people to really get behind it. But I imagine that the very fact that it's working and you're seeing results at your station and that people are looking for solutions is also enough to pique people's curiosity in other CAMHS units and maybe give it a go, even if it's a part-time role. And so what is the impact, particularly, I know your speciality is in eating disorders. Have you seen any particular impact on eating disorders, and what is that happens if it is optimistic? What is it that happens, do you think?
I think there's obviously, with eating disorders, there's a massive disconnect between the body and the mind, and I think that feeling back into the body, beginning to experience sensations where they've been quite cut off from their body, can be really, really powerful. And learning to befriend your body again after being at war with it, really. And so I think it can be really, really subtle, just in terms of noticing how you're breathing, where often the breathing's very constricted, and so beautiful. I know, just talking to patients that have been through the yoga therapy kind of program, and them saying, actually, this is just such a highlight of the week, and everything's really hard, and actually this is one really positive thing, and that just feeling the tension sort of melting away that they're holding the whole time is really powerful. So
that's a statement that I've heard so many times. Young people say exactly that, that feeling the tension melt away. That's a statement that keeps recurring, isn't it? So they have this holding that's going on mentally and physically that they don't know what to do with. They don't know how to alleviate themselves. So that's really interesting. And but like you say, super subtle, but the subtle is the most powerful sometimes, isn't it? So I don't know, you said it, obviously it's new ideas take time to get established, and there are so many barriers to entry for young people who know very little about what yoga could be. I mean, obviously we exist as a charity to advocate for this and to break down those barriers, but I imagine that there's quite a few, when offered, might just be skeptical and
Yeah.
That was probably your main issue, I imagine, in getting this off the ground. Was that right, do you think?
Yeah, it was one of the issues. I think also actually the staff weren't really sure what it was about a lot of the time.
Yes.
So Bernadette offered staff sessions so that they could understand a little bit more about what it was, and did a lot of talks to the team and was very present so that they were able to ask questions. And then they started to see that their young people really enjoyed it, so that they've had more referrals after that, so
Oh,
that's been
that's nice. So you just needed to get everybody on board really with the idea and have them experience
yeah,
it. That's
yeah.
very
And I think with the
powerful,
young
Joe.
yeah, and I think with the young people, they a lot of them were skeptical, and I think she would talk to them on the phone with the parent and say, you can bring your parent in as well if you want to, initially, and
Wow, she's being really proactive,
she's
actually.
been very proactive. And
Yeah.
also in terms of, actually she wasn't getting many boys to begin with, so she's done that thing of having lots of boys on the advertising. We've
Yeah,
got
that's the
people
way
in the
to do it.
waiting room and things, so yeah, she's getting a few more now, so.
And can I ask, do you know numbers? How many young people have accessed yoga? Do you know?
There is quite a lot. I haven't got it on the top of my head.
No, I should have asked you
I
that
think it
before.
might be about 80 at the moment, something like that,
Wonderful,
I
wonderful.
think. Yeah.
That's it. I'm so excited for this, Joe. And I mean, I don't know whether the people who are watching this, whether they can get in touch with you if we have psychiatrists watching who might be interested in doing something similar in their CAMHS unit, whether they can get in touch with you or get in touch with me.
Yeah,
Maybe. And yeah, that would be
absolutely.
really
Yeah. My
exciting.
my my work email, I don't mind sharing that. That is
Yeah.
joanna.barker@solent.nhs.uk.
And that's
We can,
Joanna without an H, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all lowercase, yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for the time today, and hopefully it's going to inspire many, many more psychiatrists to be as brave, and management teams as to be as brave as you are, and to forward thinking in alternatives to support young people in the subtle ways, and you're very inspiring, I think, and inspiring me to really get this yoga therapy training off the ground. I've been speaking to many people about getting faculty together, so that will happen very soon, so that we get
Excellent.
that training program going.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Joe. Really appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
time.